Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to another episode of Gather for Her. This is our season 8. We're right in the heat of summer. You might hear windows open. You might hear boats going by, birds chirping. We're just really glad that you're with us in your life, in your home, and here on LinkedIn. I'm Tina O. I'm your moderator, and I'm grateful to be connecting with you all here from Nechwalakwam, also known as Bowen Island here in BC, Canada, on the soil that was originally named as Turtle Island, now known as the continent of North America. I'm grateful to rest my head, to play and co-create on the traditional unceded ancestral territories, land, and home to the Squamish people. Gather for Her, which is what you've just dropped into, invites you to be part of our co-created conversation with global leaders, change makers, and social impactors, and it's brought to you by Powerhouse and produced by Regen Media. At Powerhouse, we walk beside leaders to amplify their change work as they walk their path of whole leadership, guided by relational leadership practices and Indigenous wisdom. Our impact media producer today is Regen Media, and always Regen Media, who invites us to take the power of media into our own hands by supporting stories that heal, regenerate, uplift, and transform. And today, we have something a little different planned for you. Our 2022 Fire Circle is happening on September 22nd to the 24th, and our theme this year is healing our systems. So for the next 40 minutes, we're going to dive into that conversation. What does it mean to heal our systems? Why might that be important right now? What is a Powerhouse Fire Circle, and why are we using this model? And then, of course, how do you come to the circle? How do you be with us? We as the Braid here are your guests today. I'm joined by my Braid sisters, Charlene Senjenko, founder of Powerhouse and now Regen Media, Sharon Marshall, founder and LEO of Diva Training and Staffing Solutions, as well as Creative Collaborations, and Christina Benti, national speaker and LEO of Strategic Leadership Solutions. We are your pals this morning, your sisters in story. I'm Tina Overbury, Managing Director of Powerhouse and the storyteller of Tina O Life. So let's jump into this. And after this conversation, just so you know, next week, you can all join us in a wisdom circle where we can unpack this a bit more. And of course, you're going to join us at the Fire Circle. So this is a live conversation. So introduce yourself as a listener or our viewer in the chat. Say hello. Let us know where you're connecting from, with an acknowledgement of gratitude for the lands in which you rest, play, and grow. And let's meet each other and let's jump in. I'm going to pass to my sisters in change making and let them introduce themselves, and then we'll get going. Why don't we start with, I don't know, Sharon? Sharon or Christina? I'm kind of feeling like it's healing your systems. One of you should kick this off. Sharon and I are old hat at this, I kind of feel like. Who wants to go?
Christina, why don't you go first?
Sure. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to this conversation. I am very excited about this conversation because that's my area of research, is human systems design, and how to think about a system, and how to look how humans organize themselves within systems, and what are those patterns of behavior and beliefs that we fall into that don't serve us, and how do we raise that to the level of consciousness so we can change that. So I'm very excited about this conversation. And so, speaking of human systems, at this moment, while we're having this conversation, I happen to be on the road doing pre-election workshops for folks that are interested in municipal office. And so those are the conversations that I'm getting to have around the province. So I'm very excited about engaging with everybody on this conversation. Under normal circumstances, you can find me in the traditional territory of the Tanaha and the Shuswap peoples and the Columbia River Métis, also known as Golden BC in the Rocky Mountains. Right now, I'm not even sure where I am. So that being said, I'm very grateful to be here with my Braid sisters having this conversation. So I'm going to pass it over to Sharon.
Thanks, Christina. And I am Sharon Marshall, and I am one of the co-hosts of the Powerhouse and this Gather for Her session. I am coming to you from the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Snuneymuxw and Snuneymuxw First Nations of the Coast Salish people here on Vancouver Island. And I am excited for this conversation. I believe we will dive into some relational leadership, and that is something that I believe wholeheartedly in. And so I'm looking forward to diving into this conversation. How about I pass it on to you, Shar?
Thanks, Sharon. Good morning. I'm Charlene Sinjenko, and it's a pleasure to welcome you here from my home on the beautiful Sunshine Coast, where I gratefully live, work, and play on the Squamish, traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory. And I'm, again, yes, very excited to talk about our upcoming fire circle, to think back on the last, actually the last two fire circles that have happened during the global pandemic, to think back to where we started in 2019 when we had our big Impact Accelerator event in Regina, and how we felt that something was afoot and we couldn't quite put our finger on it. And now to look back and how grateful we are that we've gathered week to week to build relationships, trust, safety, and to really explore relational leadership. So I'm really curious where that takes us as at today, looking back in the present to look forward, and how we might be better leaders in our practice of doing this. So thank you for joining.
You know, Shar, what comes up for me when you say it is like, right, I remember being at that accelerator, and the four of us looking at each other and going, something's happening here. Something's happening. It's like you could feel it. And it was that the wave of, for me, it was like the wave of yes, the wave of ready, the wave of ready. What I didn't know is that what we were getting ready for was the global pandemic. And Gather for Her was born out of that, a safe place to gather. And then the fire circle, by extension, the virtual fire circle became like another gathering place for us. And do you remember our first fire circle? Like the weight, the energetic weight in the room, in the virtual room. And we must have been getting ready to hold that container and walk in this process, forward together. Look, that's where it takes me. Where do you go?
Yeah, you're right, Tina. I think that at that first fire circle, there was a level of intensity, and there was grief, and there was I don't even want to call it anxiety. It was awareness that something was shifting. There was definitely some tension and anxiety, because nobody knew exactly what was going to happen. And there was a lot of conversation about liminal space, that we were in the liminal space. Our previous location was out of sight, and our new location was not in sight. And so we were in between spaces, and we had a lot of conversations about that. And that actually really, in terms of systems and having conversations about systems, that's very relevant, is actually when you're looking at systemic change and change makers, the space of tension between where we were, that's no longer in sight, and where we're going, which still isn't in our view. There's a lot of courage required to sit in that liminal space, or be in that liminal space of where are we going. And when we talk about leadership and systems, looking at how do we positively impact the systems, it's really taking into consideration that we have to have that capacity for that gap, and know that, okay, this place of tension is exactly where we're supposed to be, even though it's like, It's uncomfortable. And so the level of discomfort then, and the level of, it's a different level of discomfort now, right? That we're sitting with, but the same courageous muscles are needed. And so that's the invitation. And I think that's what we're going to be diving into when we, and in the fire circle, when we talk about that.
Well, we know that there's no change possible without that feeling, right? If you're not feeling anything, then nothing's going to happen. It's the feeling that, and yes, it can get quite uncomfortable, but that's just because of the not knowing. So if we can just ride it. I mean, yeah, that fire circle was I was just vibrating. It was intense. It was amazing. It was incredible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I just want to jump in and say something else, and that is that again, when we're talking about systemic change, their systems by design don't like to change, right? So the second change is introduced, a change agent is introduced, it's like, let's go back to homeostasis because that's safe. It feels safe, and that's actually a subconscious. Like, it's not like we're consciously going, no, we don't want change. It's actually a subconscious need to come back to homeostasis. And so what do? We pull ourselves back to what's known. And oftentimes, so part of leadership is actually embracing, again, that discomfort around the disruption of the homeostasis. It's like, oh yeah. And it's calling it, it's naming it, and storying it, which is exactly what we do, right? We story it, and we give people a language in the conversations, the invitation to talk about, this is edgy. Ah.
I love it. Shar, what's alive for you in this?
I think what's alive for me is jumping into what is the invitation. What's the invitation that's upon us right now? Because I think back to, so we've covered the past, right? So now I'm curious, like, what's the invitation that's alive? And that's where we're at as leaders living in 2022, because it's such a privilege to be leading at this time in history with all of the tools and the technology and all of the brilliant minds and the people and the assets that are around us. So what's that invitation? Because I think sometimes we focus on we focus on the waves above, and we forget what's just below. And that's, I think, that opportunity for change. So what is the invitation to disrupt the homeostasis, and how does that actually begin to happen? What are those steps, and how does that relate to something called a fire circle? And what is a fire circle?
Yeah.
If you've never been part of one and you've just clicked onto LinkedIn for the first time, I'd love to go there.
I was thinking that, thanks for that, Shar. Yeah, I was thinking that, this is our fourth fire circle. Like, we are primed for action now. Like, right, our first one was kind of like self-locating. Where are we? Then it was like, okay, we're building some safety in the where we are, right? Then we're like, oh, this is what where we are looks like, feels like. Then the third fire circle, there was a beginning of we were given, it sounds funny, but given instructions, really, like in the harvesting of all the wisdom, which I think I'll explain what happens in a fire circle in a second. But at the end of the third one, there was like direct instructions from the collective of us as we harvested all the things that happened in our breakout rooms. What came really clear was, you need to gather. You need to gather. You need to do what you're here to do, and you need to do it. Gather together, do what you're here to do. And now we're moving to this fourth one. We've taken on this really big conversation, healing our systems. We're ready. We've established safety. We know where we are. We've got our direction. Now it's time. It's time to go and get out, as you know, I say, get out in the skinny branches and lead forward in an actionable place. So if you haven't been to a fire circle, what it looks like, for those of you who are hearing this for the first time, is a 3-hour event in the morning, 9 a.m. to noon. The first hour, we have our guest panelists, conversationalists, who are bringing their wisdom to the conversation. In this particular year in Healing Our Systems, the 4 systems that we're jumping into is business and capitalism, the health system, finance and banking, governance and politics. So that first hour, we've got that. Christina Bente's going to open us up on what systems theory even is. How can we walk our way through this? Then we've got our panelists. And then after that, we take a break, we come back, and then we go into the audience, which is no longer an audience. All of the participants who have been listening, we go into breakout rooms and we work through for a half an hour. What came up for us in that? What are our questions? What are our solutions? What are our reimaginings? And then after that, we take another break, and then we come back and we harvest all of that. There's a facilitator per breakout room that collects all of the things that have been said in some sort of visual or word way. And then they bring that to the mic, again, all in a virtual setting. And then I step in with my story track and ears, and I start tracking. Wow, look at this. And you'll notice it too. Every participant will start to notice, like, oh my gosh, we keep hearing the same thing. Oh my gosh. So the instructions, if you will, out of our collective wisdom from this particular event is what? Blah, blah, blah. And it's where all of our wisdoms intersect. And then after the fire circle, we are collecting all of the data from what has happened like the lead up, all the social media stuff where people are talking about healing our systems, all the pre-panels. If you kind of come to the fire circle, you're going to get 4 talks ahead of time from full hour pre-panels on each of these sectors. Then the fire circle itself, we're collecting all that data, and we're creating a powerhouse. I haven't quite got the name yet, but we're just calling it a case for support because we all kind of know what that is. But we're creating a report that we're then going to not only post on our site, but send to the various change makers that we know and that are in the Powerhouse Network that can affect change with this information. And your voice is important to that. No one's a participant like in the audience way. It's like your voice matters, your thoughts matter. Even the introverts, you don't have to talk. You can type. We're collecting all that data. So that's what happens at a fire circle. Who wants to pick up that now?
I want to pick up that for a moment because I think that, the very fact that it's very co-creative and generative is the recognition that we all come to the table as learners. So we all have our area of mastery and expertise, and we're also learners at the same time. And so it's not, it is not a expert yapping at you. It's actually generative, and the participatory aspect of it, like you said, the invitation is for everyone, is to participate in such a way that and it's, however it works for you, but it is entering into the conversation so that your head and heart is contributing to the larger energy, right? The global, the local, and global change making that we're all seeking to make. And so it matters. Your presence matters there. Your participation, your voice matters, and it's so key. So yeah, I'm very excited about that.
Sharon, I'm thinking about you right now. I'm just thinking about, in the various fire circles, the way you would collect what you saw visually. And like you have which put you in this beautiful place to observe a fire circle. And I just wonder what you might share about what you see in a fire circle?
Well, I think, thanks, Tina. I think Christina pretty much said it very well. I see everybody having an equal opportunity for their voice to be heard. I mean, that's the thing about a circle. It's an indigenous way of gathering information and having everybody participate and feeling like there's no hierarchy. So that makes it really, I think it's just a really smart way to get the information that you need to harvest that information is, so I see that. And it starts off like it accelerates. It's an energetic, it's like a ball even, like it starts to, it's slowly getting pushed, and then, the momentum, it's going on its own at the end. And it's just really this very beautiful way to co-create. Like every fire circle that and I've been to all of them, they've all been very profound ways to be witness and to co-create. And everybody that we've talked to has said that when it was their first time, it was this incredible experience that they never had experienced anything like it. And I'm excited because it seems like it's been far too long since our last fire circle. So I'm really excited to be going to experience this one with everybody. Oh, hopefully lots of people that haven't been in a fire circle before.
Something that Sharon said that I want to pick up on, and she said that it's a very, circle gathering is very an indigenous way of doing community, right? And that's one of my big beliefs, is that get the whole system in the room so that you're having the same conversation. It's not us and them. I was just working up north with some indigenous communities, and the pure joy of everyone being in the room. And it was a non-hierarchical, it was a recognition that everybody has a different role and a responsibility. It's a who does what, but everybody was in the room intermingling and having the same conversation, all coming from a different perspective, but having the same conversation. And so it's you'd think it's so obvious, right? Because this is the water we swim in. And so it's like, well, of course, but it doesn't happen. Systems separate themselves, and they fail to gather and to have meaningful conversations, recognizing that, like I said, all voices matter.
Well, because the typical hierarchical system is the hierarchy, right? So up here has more importance than down here. And so, but the people down here could have the most amazing ideas and could be the savers of their communities, so let's take away the labels, take away all that, and put everybody in the same room and just let everybody speak. And because you'll never know what will come out of it until you try it.
So we're just past our halfway mark. So there might be new people that are joining us. So I just want to reset the room for a sec, and then let's jump into this healing our systems conversation. If you're just finding us here on LinkedIn, this is Gather for Her. You've just landed here, and we're a co-created conversation with global leaders, change makers, and social impactors, brought to you by Powerhouse and produced by Regen Media. And today's conversation is a little bit different. It's a lead up to Powerhouse's annual fire circle, and this year's focus is healing our systems. So what is a fire circle? Imagine gathering in a place where you're met with energy and respect, where you're invited to have brave conversations. Imagine an interactive and integrated, unconference with less definitive answers and more reimagining and inquiry, where there are far less presentations and more presence. There's no PowerPoints, and instead brave, heart-led conversations facilitated by hope-filled, fueled truth tellers who encourage everyone, to pick up on Christina Benti, to stay in the room. Imagine listening and harvesting answers to what seems impossible. As small groups emerge from what used to be boring breakout rooms, they're now collective circles of problem solving. So that's a fire circle. And our theme this year is healing our systems. You can join us at the fire on September 22nd to 24th, where we'll be reimagining business and capitalism, the health system, finance and banking, governance and politics. And you can go there by just going to powerhouse.com. So let's talk about healing our systems. And I'm going to pass to you, Shar, if I may. I don't know if you still got stuff around you.
Yeah. Apologies for any background noise if we hear it. I'd like to jump into what's in front of us in terms of healing our systems. I've been in a lot of conversations lately with brand decision makers and those in impact and innovation. And one thing that I want to say is that regardless if we're looking at healthcare or politics, if we're looking at finance, banking, or a corporate setting, I believe what we'll see arise is that a system is a system. And we're living in a time right now where our I've said it before, I'll say it again, our number one job as leaders right now is to heal. If you are a leader in this decade, your number one priority. So when I think about healing our systems, I personally think about how are we reshifting our priorities? How are we recognizing and reshifting our priorities and making better decisions? In conversation, the purpose of having a conversation brings clarity about your own level of readiness. And that allows you as a leader with your team to go back and really consider your impact areas of your team in your organization and your level of readiness to take action on those impact areas. So I know for myself, it's like, oh, I'm being invited to another conversation. Well, what good is a conversation? I'm saying that this is an opportunity to gather in circle to find clarity and feel into your level of readiness in terms of taking action on your priorities and where you're ready to make better decisions, because that is the tactical work that is in front of us next. Don't know where that takes you, but I don't want to get hung up on the different sectors. I want to focus on what we're really talking about here.
Mm-hmm.
When I think about that and what Shar just said around gathering, I think about that as plugging into the energy system, right? That we're actually, when we gather, we are plugging into something bigger than ourselves. And then we're charging our battery, building our muscle to go out then and do the work. And then we come back and we gather and we do the same. I need to charge my battery. And these are the people I charge my battery with. And it's exponential, that battery charge. And that's why the conversation matters, because it's not just a conversation, it's a battery charge. And it gives me the zing and the juice then to go and do the change-making work the purpose work that I'm called to do.
So sorry, go ahead, Sharon. Yep.
No, I was just going to ask Christina. So then what would you say is your first priority to enable you to do that then, Christina?
I think so. I think it's knowing thyself, right? Know what charges your battery and what important conversations need to be had in your own life. It's kind of an inside outside job. It's both and. It has to be done inside and outside. And because one of the things I think, and we talk about this, and we've talked about this several times, is that a system is only as healthy as the people within the system, because it's made up of humans. And so it really ties back to our job is to heal. What is it? And the question, each one of us, and it's going to be, we're answering it differently. What do you need to heal? And what's it going to take for you to heal? And everyone's going to experience it differently. But the gathering is the reminder that you can't charge your battery alone.
Right.
Whether you're an introvert or extrovert, it actually doesn't, that's not what it's about. We don't operate alone. And so we have to charge our battery together.
Here's what I'm picking up on. So like, what's the first thing to do, right? Because we've got this conversation that's pretty cognitive, right? Healing our systems, the 4 sectors. And it's important. These are the tangible things. These are the tangible things that we're all laying in bed worrying about at night, right? What's going on in the health system? Oh my gosh. We live in anyway, you get it. We move things around. We got stuff to do, right? But what I'm hearing you say is that when we look out, we look at the problem. When we look in, we look at the solution. And so there's a bit of a lens change. So, and somewhere in the in-between is where we meet, right? So what I'm hearing you say is that as we heal ourselves, we may put less effort of pointing this way in terms of naming the problem, and more effort this way. I'm going, and this is my part in it, because we are the system. We are the system. Right? And yet it's an incremental, likely, I would imagine, walk to affect this big change that's hundreds of years old, way over here, starting from here. But I'm not sure if that lost us or helped us, but like, I know there's going to be people in the fire circle that want to speak directly to what's going on in the sector that's bugging them the most. And also reimagine, like, a place to put a voice to some of their things that they've thought about. Well, why haven't we done this? Why haven't we done that? And like, that is as important as healing ourselves. So it's like, we're going to be able to sit in this place where we listen to both. Will be confusing though too, hey?
I always jokingly say, anytime you have a thought of somebody should do something about something, it's like, there's your light bulb. There's your clue. Maybe that somebody's me.
Yeah, the thing though is that it's definitely it's a breeding ground for ideas, innovation, and then I think that we do come to realize whether it's something that we can do ourselves within the group, or if it's something that needs to be, there has to be a bigger conversation. But regardless, I think that's the starting point. So yes, that's where we start with ourselves. And so then Shar had mentioned that we start by shifting our priorities. And so I was just wondering, so the priority would be, what would that priority be then? So I'm thinking, so here's a fire circle, and I'm going to come to this fire circle. I don't know anything about it. And what's my priority? I'm just trying to play a string to
totally.
Yeah, I can speak into that a little bit, or at least punt it further. Like, I think that you may walk into the fire circle not understanding what priority you are ready to shift, to take action on. it's easy to see what priorities you have. They're all in your strategic plan, and there's budget items related to each and every one of them. And so it is my hope that through our conversations, clarity comes as a call. This is the priority I'm being called to act on. It is through the conversations and the wisdom that's collected that I think leaders will feel into what they're being called to take action on, and they'll walk away. It might not be absolutely clear in that moment, but through further conversations with their teams, I think it will be, or with us here at Powerhouse, I think it will become clear. I want to just quickly also add, when Christina was talking, couple of things come up for me at this time. I think the most important thing is a breeding ground of hope. Healing does not happen in the absence of hope. So that is a very important aspect. It is actually my priority right now to create hope through the stories that we share. And I think that our systems will heal as we do. And so my priority is my healing, making sure that I'm prioritizing my own healing and doing what I need to do, and the healing of those most closely with me, in circle with me, and then out from there. A funny story to make a point: if you're a sports fan and you're frustrated because your team just isn't scoring the goals, their goals this season, or their touchdowns this season are dismal. Well, that only happens when the team works on themselves and figures out what needs to take place in order to change that result. We are simply that team that needs to be with ourselves and figure out what needs to happen in order to change the result. We don't need to get caught up on just changing this result. The result will change when we do. That's going to be the interesting part of the fire circle.
And that was the point I was trying to make, is that people will come into into this with the priority, but really the priority is it should shift, and that as they're in the fire circle, realizing that the priority is themselves first, and then the answers will come.
Yeah, and when you're looking for priorities, look for the threads, look for what you can't get away from, but look for the less obvious threads. Like, don't take it at face value. Look for what's not obvious, and dissect it a little bit, because that's actually what's going to raise the level of consciousness. So I'd love how we dove into Sharon's question in a multi-dimensional way. That was awesome.
How very fire circle of us.
So that's what I wanted.
We're just at our last few minutes, and I know, Christina, you got to scoot. So I just wanted to give us each an opportunity to have our last word around this, and invitation to those who are watching to join us at the fire circle. And then if you need to go, Christina, by all means go. And I want to do our thank yous and the way we close, but you can scoot and do your thing. So why don't we pass to you first? What might your invitation be to listeners today around the fire circle?
My invitation is come. Gather. Bring your head and your heart. Be open to maybe the discomfort of the conversation, and come with a willingness to explore both your own internal landscape and the landscape of the collective. And come plug in and charge your battery. That's what we're all about. I can't wait. I'm so excited. Thank you. Big love to you all.
See you later, Christina. How about you, Miss Sharon? What's your invitation? Can't hear you. Oh, there you go. No.
Oh, here I was yakking away there. It was good. And now am I going to be able to remember what I just said? No, my invitation is to come and experience a model of relational leadership like no other. The Fire Circle is extraordinary. It's an extraordinary experience, and we can talk about it all we want, but unless you experience it, we're not giving it all the justice that it deserves. So I hope to see you all there at the Fire Circle.
Awesome. Thanks, Sharon. How about you, Shar? Me or you? What do you think?
I'll jump in. What would be my invitation? I think my invitation is to come to an opportunity to uncover another layer of yourself, to explore an extended version of yourself, to lead into a higher level of leadership for yourself and your community, locally and globally. And to know that it doesn't happen by accident, that all of this healing through hope is absolutely cultivated. That is why we're so dedicated to the gatherings that we host. It is the cultivation for the acceleration of impact through relational leadership. And I hope you come.
Thank you. I think my invitation, in my work in the world as a story person, it's always a co-creative process of listening to what's been entrusted to you. And so if you're a leader listening to that, I truly believe that you've been entrusted with a story of leadership, and that story of leadership is a relational leadership story. It is from a place of one family. So I want to invite you to join us at the fire with all that's been entrusted to you. I want to invite you to bring all the words you know and all the words you don't know, the awkwardness, the awesomeness, because in a one family, your whole self is always welcome here. And there are very few places that I've encountered in the world where you can reimagine in however that is coming out of your mouth. And you can at the Fire Circle. So my invitation is come and join us at the fire, discover what relational leadership feels like, discover what it feels like to have permission to bring your whole self into the room, and to know that your what's been entrusted to you matters. Yeah. So thanks for being here, everyone. I close out our conversation. I want to thank Sharon and Christina and Shar for the Fire Circle, for all of it, for Gather, for you, for joining us. We invite you to join us on September 22nd to the 24th at our virtual fire at Fire Circle 2022, Healing Our Systems, where we'll be unpacking and reimagining business and capitalism, the health system, finance and banking, and governance and politics. Your voice matters, your solutions matter, your questions matter, you matter, and we're all in this system change together because we are the system. So thank you for joining us in this co-created conversation. You can find this here on LinkedIn. You can also find us on Spotify, on our repackaged version of this called How for Her, which is our podcast, as well as on our YouTube channel. Gather for Her is hosted by Powerhouse, where we walk beside leaders to amplify their change work as they walk their path of whole leadership, guided by relational leadership practices and Indigenous wisdom. So many thanks to our impact media producer and sister company, Regen Media, and Charlene Sanjenko, who reminds us that we can take the power of media into our own hands when we support stories that heal, regenerate, uplift, and transform. And thank you to the hands that are back at Powerhouse and Regen's digital storytellers, Zoe Gray, Madeline Archibald, and Willow Smith. And thank you to my co-hosts, the Braid, To all of you, our listeners, our community of change makers, leaders, and social impactors, thank you for walking with us in co-creation of the world we're living into together. Come back, come and join us at the Fire Circle, and come back each week here on LinkedIn, where we're either in conversation or we're in a wisdom circle unpacking the conversation. Thanks for being here, and we will see you at the fire.